In the heart of bustling New York City, where millions rush past each other every day, a single moment of selfless kindness on a grimy subway car became the turning point for a broke nurse. But not in the way she expected. What happens when doing the right thing costs you everything, only to open a door you never saw coming? Before we dive into Sarah's incredible journey, if you're enjoying stories of real-life challenges and unexpected turns, please take a second to hit that subscribe button and join our community. Your support helps us share more inspiring tales like this one. Now, let's get into the story. The damp chill and the metallic, rusty smell of the New York City subway wrapped around Sarah Miller like a second skin. Once again, the A-train car was packed during rush hour, pushing tired bodies against each other in an involuntary dance. Sarah clung to one of the poles, her arm muscles aching, the weight of the day and her life pressing down on her shoulders. The deafening rumble of the tracks echoed the storm in her mind. Bills piling up on the kitchen table, rent overdue, the exorbitant cost of her mother's medication. Each sharp squeal of the train seemed to mock her desperate situation. Being a nurse at a Manhattan hospital was exhausting, but the salary, though barely enough to cover essential expenses, was her only hope. Her mother, Eleanor, a woman once vibrant and now frail, battled a chronic illness that required constant care and prohibitively expensive drugs. Every doctor's visit, every fever spike, meant leaving work early or arriving late, accumulating warnings and the icy stare of Director Jenkins. He didn't see Sarah. He saw only a name on a timesheet stained by tardiness. The excuse, family emergency, sounded hollow in his ears. That morning, her fatigue was profound. She had spent the night awake with Eleanor, administering meds, changing compresses. Her eyes burned, and her head throbbed with the irregular rhythm of the subway. She counted the minutes until she reached the hospital, praying for no delays along the way. But the universe seemed to have other plans. The train stopped abruptly between stations. A violent lurch sent everyone stumbling. Seconds later, a murmur started in the center of the car. Someone had collapsed. At first, Sarah, exhausted and focused on her own clock-watching anxiety, tried to ignore it. But then, a cry. "Someone help! He's not breathing right!" Her professional instinct, stronger than exhaustion or the fear of being late, took over. Pushing her way through the hesitant crowd, Sarah reached the center. A man in an expensive suit lay pale on the floor, gasping for air, his eyes wide with panic. Around him, people seemed frozen, taking photos with their phones or murmuring worriedly. He looked to be in his 50s, and the immaculate suit seemed out of place in the grimy subway car. "Excuse me, I'm a nurse," Sarah announced, her voice surprisingly steady. She knelt beside him, quickly assessing the situation. His pulse was weak, his breathing shallow and irregular. It looked like a sudden medical event, maybe a heart attack or an initial stroke. There was no time to waste. "We need space. Someone call 911 now," she commanded. She directed people to step back, loosened the man's tie, positioned his head to ease breathing. She spoke to him calmly, trying to keep him conscious, monitoring his vital signs improvisationally with her trained fingers on his wrist and neck. The minutes dragged on, feeling like hours. The siren of the stalled train wailed outside, muffling the murmuring of the crowd, now watching in tense silence. Sweat beaded on Sarah's forehead. Every second away from the hospital was another nail in the coffin of her job. But that man's life depended on her in that moment. Finally, the emergency medical team arrived, entering the car with stretchers and equipment. Sarah relayed the information she'd gathered, the symptoms, the duration, his response to first aid. She watched as they stabilized him and moved him out of the train, grateful she'd managed to keep him alive until help arrived. Only then, standing in the now less chaotic car, her hands trembling slightly, did Sarah look at the clock on her wrist. Almost an hour and 15 minutes had passed since the train stopped. Her stomach plummeted. She ran the rest of the way to the hospital, her uniform rumpled, her hair askew. She reached the time clock station, breathless, her heart pounding not from the exertion, but from fear. The time on the clock seemed to scream her sentence. Director Jenkins was waiting for her in the nurse's lounge, his arms crossed over his chest, his face a mask of cold impatience. His narrow eyes scanned Sarah, noting her disheveled state. "Nurse Sarah Miller," he said, his voice low and cutting. "You are over an hour late." "Again," Sarah tried to explain, the words tumbling out in her desperate haste. "Director Jenkins, please. There was an emergency on the subway. A man collapsed. I saved him. I had to stay until the paramedics arrived." He cut her off with a wave of his hand. "Emergencies, Ms. Miller. Your sick mother, now a stranger on the subway. Your punctuality record is the worst in the hospital. We have rules, professionalism. Patients, count on us." He picked up a folder from the table. "We've received your letter of termination today, effective immediately." The floor dropped out from under Sarah. "No. Director, please. I was saving a life. That's why we're nurses. Your service was off duty and cannot be used as an excuse to neglect your responsibilities here," he retorted, impassive. "The decision is made. Please return your badge and uniform and arrange to collect your belongings. The HR department will contact you regarding the final details." Sarah stood there, unable to believe it. The momentary heroism she'd felt on the subway was replaced by an overwhelming emptiness. She had done the right thing. She had saved a life. And in return, she lost the only thing keeping her afloat, the only thing allowing her to care for her mother. Tears began to roll hotly down her tired face. Without another word, she gathered her things from a small locker, returned her badge and uniform, and walked out into the familiar hallway that now felt like a stranger's. The New York chill outside seemed colder than ever. She was unemployed, broke, with a sick mother depending on her. The despair was an almost unbearable weight. There was no light at the end of the tunnel, just the darkness of an uncertain future. While Sarah faced the brutal cold of unemployment, the man she saved woke up in the silent comfort of a private hospital room. Robert Harrison, one of the most influential names in New York real estate, blinked in confusion, memories returning in flashes. The shaking of the subway, the gasping for air, frightened faces, and a calm, determined face kneeling beside him. He had taken the subway that day because his driver had an unexpected family issue, and his luxury car had a flat tire on the way to a crucial meeting. A rare string of inconveniences forced him to use public transport for the first time in years. A coincidence that nearly cost him his life. By his bedside, his personal assistant, David, explained what had happened. "Mr. Harrison, you collapsed on the subway. Apparently, a nurse in the car acted quickly before the paramedics arrived. She was critical in stabilizing you until the emergency team took over." Robert listened intently. "A nurse? Who was she? I need to thank her personally." David frowned. "That's the thing, sir. The paramedics didn't get her name. She provided first aid, gave basic info, and left as soon as they got there. Nobody identified her at the time, but—" He picked up his tablet. The incident was recorded by several people on the subway. Someone posted a video and a photo. It's circulating on social media and has already become local news. David showed Robert a news portal article from New York. The headline read, "Anonymous Subway Hero." Accompanying the article was a slightly shaky photo, taken with a phone, but clear enough to show a young woman in medical scrubs kneeling on the subway floor, focused on the man she was helping. Robert felt a jolt as he saw the image. It was her. The same face he'd seen leaning over him with such competence and urgency. "That's her," he murmured. We need to find her, David. Find out who she is. I owe her my life. Meanwhile, in her small, cold apartment in Queens, Sarah huddled under a thin blanket, trying to find the strength to break the news to Eleanor. The prospect of how to pay future bills was an abyss. Suddenly, her phone vibrated. It was a message from her friend Jessica, also a nurse. Jessica. Sarah, did you see this? Accompanying the message was a screenshot of a news article. The same headline, Anonymous Subway Hero. Sarah scrolled down and saw the photo. Her heart leaped. It was her. On the subway floor, helping the man. Someone had filmed and photographed her. Jessica. That's you, right? I recognized you instantly. Wow, you're news. They're looking for the nurse who saved that guy. Who is he? Do they know? Sarah typed back, her hands trembling. Yeah, it's me. I don't know who he is. I just helped him. And Jessica. Because of it, I was over an hour late and got fired by Jenkins. Jessica's reply came almost instantly. Fired? For saving a life? That's insane, Sarah. Ridiculous. They can't do that. They did, Sarah replied, feeling the tears return. He said it was unprofessional and that my tardiness history was already bad. That guy was the last straw. While talking to Jessica, Sarah continued reading the news. There were comments praising the anonymous nurse's actions, but no one knew her name. The article asked anyone with information about her identity to come forward. The irony was cruel. Being hailed as an anonymous hero out there, while the system she dedicated her efforts to discarded her without ceremony. The small spark of hope the news might have ignited, maybe someone on the subway saw Jenkins firing her, was quickly extinguished by financial desperation. What did momentary fame matter if she couldn't pay rent? However, the news didn't just reach Sarah and Robert. It also reached the administration of Sarah's hospital. Director Jenkins and other executives saw the photo, read the article, and started connecting the dots. The man saved on the subway was brought to this hospital for further treatment. He was Robert Harrison, and the anonymous nurse in the photo was Sarah Miller, the same one they had just fired. A wave of panic and opportunism swept through the administration. Firing the nurse who saved a prominent millionaire whose story had gone viral was an imminent public relations disaster. What if Harrison found out how she was treated? Worse, what if he went to the media? The hospital needed to act fast to control the narrative and, perhaps, capitalize on the connection. The next day, Sarah's silent and dreaded phone rang with an unknown number. Hesitantly, she answered. Hello, Sarah Miller? A polished voice asked. This is the Metropolitan Hospital, calling from Human Resources. Sarah froze. Yes. Seat. Sarah, there seems to have been a misunderstanding regarding your departure. Upon re-evaluation, we realized your action on the subway was of great bravery and merit. We'd like to correct this oversight. Director Jenkins has authorized your immediate reinstatement. Your position is waiting for you. Could you come to the hospital today to finalize the paperwork? Sarah listened, stunned. Rehired? So fast? She felt a mix of dizzying relief and a pang of suspicion. Misunderstanding? They fired her the same day. But necessity trumped everything. She needed the money. She needed the job. Yes, she replied, her voice still shaky. I can come today. When? As soon as is convenient for you. Perhaps late morning? The voice suggested. Okay, I'll be there, Sarah agreed, still processing the sudden reversal. Hope, previously crushed, tentatively tried to reignite within her. Before we find out what happens next in Sarah and Robert's story, a quick reminder. If you're hooked on this tale of unexpected connections and second chances, please subscribe to our channel. Don't miss out on more inspiring true stories. Wearing her last clean dress shirt and slacks that still fit well, Sarah headed back to Metropolitan Hospital. With every step, a sense of humiliation warred with desperate hope. She knew this reinstatement wasn't due to genuine regret from Director Jenkins, but for some other reason. What she didn't know was that this reason was waiting for her in the lobby. She arrived in the hospital lobby, a spacious and impersonal area with shiny floors and the smell of disinfectant. She walked up to the main desk to announce her arrival. There were few people around, the typical mid-morning traffic. As she spoke to the receptionist, she felt a fixed gaze on her. She turned, and her eyes met those of a well-dressed man sitting in one of the armchairs in the waiting area. It was him, the man from the subway, Robert Harrison. He recognized her immediately. His eyes, previously wide with panic, now showed relief and profound gratitude. He stood up, hesitated for a moment, and then walked towards her. "It's you," he said, his voice husky with emotion. "It really is you. The subway nurse." Sarah felt her face flush. "Yes, it's me." Before she could say anything else, Robert enveloped her in an unexpected but warm hug. He held her for a moment, a gesture of pure gratitude that caught her off guard. "Thank you so much," he whispered in her ear. "You saved me. I owe you my life." Sarah, feeling awkward, briefly returned the embrace. "I just did my job," she said, stepping back from him. "I'm glad you're doing well." Robert studied her for a moment, noticing the slight paleness beneath the fatigue in her eyes. "I was looking for you. I wanted to thank you. Nobody knew who you were." He smiled. "I saw your picture in the news and knew it was you. I figured you might work here since they brought me here." Sarah hesitated. How could she tell him? How could she say that the action that saved him had cost her job? But something in the sincerity and gratitude in his eyes made her feel she could be honest. "Actually," she began, her voice low, "I'm not working here anymore. I came in today to talk to HR because I was fired yesterday." Robert's smile vanished. His eyes narrowed. "Fired? What do you mean fired?" "Well," Sarah sighed, "because of what happened on the subway. I was over an hour late after helping you. Director Jenkins, he said I already had a history of tardiness because of my sick mother, and that was the last straw. He didn't believe my reason." Robert listened, disbelief turning into contained anger. His fists clenched slightly at his sides. He looked towards the HR desk and then back at Sarah. "So they saw the news. They saw who I am. And now, because the story is circulating and they realize they fired the person who saved the life of someone with some visibility, they're trying to rehire you? Misunderstanding?" He spat the words with contempt. "I think so," Sarah said, feeling the weight of the situation. Robert shook his head, disbelieving and furious. "That's despicable. Sheer opportunism." He turned back to Sarah, his tone serious and direct. "Sarah, please don't accept that offer. Don't give them the satisfaction of fixing their mistake for the benefit of their image. You have dignity. They treated you unfairly and cruelly." Robert's advice was noble, but panic surged back through Sarah. "Mr. Harrison, I appreciate what you're saying, I really do. But I need the job. My mother is sick. We have bills, rent. I'm broke. I can't afford to have dignity right now. I need a paycheck." The words came out in a desperate whisper. Robert saw the genuine despair in her eyes. His anger at the hospital subsided slightly, replaced by a determination to help her. The woman who saved him didn't deserve this. She didn't deserve to be punished for her kindness and competence. He placed his hand gently on her shoulder. "I understand. And you're not going to have to go through this. You're not going to have to beg for your job back at this petty place. You saved my life, Sarah. Let me repay you in a way that truly matters." Robert Harrison was a man of his word and action. He wasted no time. Right there in the hospital lobby, he took out his phone and made a few discreet calls, while Sarah, confused and hopeful, watched. He spoke to his assistant, David, instructing him to handle a few things. Sarah, Robert said, turning to her. First, about your financial difficulties and your mother's care. That won't be a concern anymore. I'll make sure your essential bills are covered and that your mother, Eleanor, receives the best possible treatment. Any costs for doctors, medication, caregivers if needed, it will all be taken care of. Consider it my personal thank you. Sarah was stunned. Mr. Harrison, I can't accept so much. I just did what any nurse would do. Maybe, he replied with a slight smile, but not every nurse was there at the right moment, with the competence you showed. Please, Sarah, let me do this. It's the least I can do for the life you gave back to me. And please, call me Robert. Reluctantly, and with tears in her eyes from the overwhelming gratitude, Sarah nodded. The enormous weight on her shoulders began to lift for the first time in a long while. Second, Robert continued, about your job. You are an excellent nurse. You shouldn't have been treated that way. I know Director Evans, head of one of the most respected hospitals in the city. He's a friend of mine, and I know his hospital values talent and integrity. I called him. I explained the situation, without naming names, just that you're an exceptional professional who was treated unfairly. He agreed to give you an interview immediately. He wants to meet you. I think you'd be a great fit there. Sarah felt a wave of genuine hope. A new hospital? An interview through the recommendation of such a respected man? It felt too good to be true. Robert, I don't even know how to thank you. Accepting the interview and letting me help with your mother is a good start, he said, his smile becoming warmer. Sarah did not accept the job offer from Metropolitan Hospital. She informed HR that, while grateful for the reconsideration, she had decided to pursue another path. The look on Director Jenkins's face when he found out, through David, who accompanied Sarah to the door, that she was leaving with Robert Harrison, was priceless. In the following days, Sarah's life changed dramatically. Robert kept his word. A fund was established to cover all medical and support expenses for Eleanor, ensuring her comfort and top-notch care. Sarah could focus on taking care of her mother without the constant anxiety of the bills. She went to the interview at the hospital Robert recommended. Director Evans was impressed not only by her record and skills, but by how she recounted the subway experience and the firing. With professionalism and dignity, without excessive bitterness, she was hired. A good salary, benefits, and an environment that seemed to value its employees. It was a spectacular new beginning. As all this unfolded, Sarah and Robert stayed in touch. They started with texts and calls about Eleanor's condition or preparations for the new interview. Robert made sure to ask how Sarah was adjusting to the new hospital. Sarah, in turn, asked about his recovery. Their conversations gradually moved beyond the professional or gratitude. They discovered common interests, shared stories about their lives, laughed. Robert was captivated by Sarah's resilience, her kindness, and her inner strength in the face of so much adversity. Sarah was drawn to Robert's generosity, his humility despite his wealth, and the genuine way he cared about her and her mother. He invited her to dinner, then for a walk in Central Park. What began as an improbable connection based on a moment of crisis on the subway evolved into a deep friendship and, slowly, into something more. The difference in their worlds, the nurse struggling to get by and the millionaire, seemed to shrink with every conversation, replaced by the compatibility of their personalities and mutual respect. One evening, while having dinner at a quiet restaurant, Robert held Sarah's hand across the table. "Sarah," he said, looking into her eyes, "you didn't just save my physical life that day on the subway. You showed me a different perspective. Your strength, your integrity, they've inspired me. And being with you, seeing you care for Eleanor, seeing you flourish in this new job, I feel something for you that goes beyond gratitude." Sarah's heart skipped a beat. She smiled, squeezing his hand back. "I feel the same way, Robert. I never imagined that something so good could come from such a bad day." You gave me my hope back. You gave me my life back. And I think I'm falling in love with you." It wasn't a magical fairy tale, with no supernatural elements or impossible twists. It was the story of two people from different worlds whose paths crossed at a critical moment, and who, through kindness, courage, and mutual support, found a new path together. Sarah, the nurse who lost everything for doing the right thing, not only recovered her career and ensured her mother's health, but also found love where she least expected it. Robert, the millionaire saved on the subway, rediscovered the importance of empathy and human connection, finding in the woman who saved him not just a hero, but the partner for his own second chance. The subway, that dirty and chaotic place of despair for Sarah, became the unexpected starting point for a bright future full of possibilities. Sarah and Robert's story reminds us that sometimes the greatest challenges lead to the most unexpected blessings. An act of selfless kindness, born from desperation, didn't just save a life. It forged a connection that brought healing, dignity, and a second chance at happiness for both of them, proving that even in a cynical world, genuine human connection and resilience can open doors you never thought existed. If this story resonated with you, please give it a thumbs up and share your thoughts in the comments below. What did you think of Sarah's journey? And for more inspiring tales like this one, don't forget to subscribe and ring that notification bell so you don't miss our next video. Thanks for watching.